At her wedding, she made sure I was invisible. Not one photo, not one frame. So on my big day, I gave her the spotlight she craved, only to erase her from every single shot. The best part, she never saw it coming. I still remember the day I learned what erasure feels like. Not the kind where someone deletes a number or misplaces a file. No, this was deeper. Like I'd been gently brushed out of existence, pixel by pixel, until I was nothing but a ghost hovering in the background of someone else's perfect frame. It started at someone else's wedding, her wedding. Back then, I still thought family meant something. I believed in traditions, in showing up for people, even when it's inconvenient. So when my husband's sister asked me to be part of her bridal party, I said yes, without hesitation, without conditions. I showed up early, stayed late, and smiled through every photo. Only later, long after the cake was gone and the dresses packed away, did I discover the truth. Not one single image of me or my family made it into her wedding album. Not one. I'm Maya, by the way, 31 when this happened. I'd been married to Daniel for 4 years at the time. Steady job in marketing, suburban home. One daughter, Emma, 8 years old, all limbs and questions. I was the kind of woman who RSVP'd early, made homemade place cards, and still mailed thank you notes by hand. Respectable, predictable. I thought kindness could soften anything, but kindness doesn't register in a camera lens when someone decides you don't belong in the shot. I confronted her once, gently. I asked if there had been maybe a mistake during editing. She smiled, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, "What are you talking about? I don't think you were in any of the formal photos." Then she changed the subject, like it didn't matter, like I didn't matter. That night, I cried in the bathtub while my daughter played in the next room. I didn't want her to see me like that, small, silenced, but something shifted in me that night. Not anger, not yet. Something colder, quieter. Because here's the thing about being invisible. It gives you a front row seat. You see who they really are when they think no one's watching, and you learn. You learn how to disappear, and eventually, how to make them disappear too. When I got engaged 2 years later, she smiled for the cameras again. She cheered, offered fake help, even asked if she could give a speech. I said yes. I said yes to everything. Because I was already planning something she'd never see coming. 3 years before my own wedding, I stood under soft pink lighting in a hotel ballroom, holding the train of her dress while she screamed at the florist on the phone. Her name is Vanessa, Daniel's sister, 2 years older than me, and she made sure I never forgot it. She had a way of speaking that made everything sound like a performance, even when she was angry, especially when she was angry. People called her ambitious, but I always thought of her as curated. Nothing ever slipped through the surface. Her wedding had been a show, a $1,000 chair rental kind of show, champagne flown in from France, menu cards in gold script, a string quartet that played Coldplay covers like it was Mozart. And I was there for all of it, bridesmaid, planner, therapist. I even hemmed the flower girl's dress the night before because the tailor bailed. I didn't complain. I didn't roll my eyes. I just smiled. My daughter Emma was a junior bridesmaid. Daniel walked Vanessa down the aisle, her request. She said it would mean more than walking with their father, who was distant at best. I remember Daniel hesitating when she asked, but eventually he gave in. She always got what she wanted from him. On the day of her wedding, I wore pale blue chiffon and a smile I had to keep adjusting. The photographer was everywhere, snapping, directing, repositioning people like chess pieces. At one point, he turned to me and said, "You, step back a bit." I thought it was to create a better shape in the group shot. But looking back, I wonder if it wasn't something else entirely. After the ceremony, Vanessa pulled me aside. "You've been amazing," she said, hugging me. "Seriously, I couldn't have done this without you." I felt seen. For 1 second, I felt like I belonged in that frame. That hug stayed with me. It softened everything that followed. Until the photos were posted. Weeks later, she sent a beautifully bound book of wedding highlights to everyone in the family. When mine arrived, I opened it slowly, savoring the thick pages and glossy finishes. Page after page, I turned. There was Daniel, handsome in gray, Vanessa, glowing, her friends, her coworkers, the officiant, even the caterer made it in. But me, I wasn't there. Not in the group shots, not in the ceremony photos, not in the reception. And Emma, one blurry image of her in the background behind a centerpiece. I blinked, then flipped the book again from the beginning. Surely this wasn't the full album. Surely there was a second volume. I called Vanessa. "Hey," I said lightly, "the album's gorgeous. Just wondering, did I get a different version? I didn't see any of the family photos." There was a pause. Then her voice came through, flat and sweet. "Oh, no, that's it. We decided to keep it focused on immediate family and close friends, you know. Tight storytelling." "But I was in the bridal party." She laughed, light, dismissive. "Yeah, but it was chaos. The editor cut a lot. Nothing personal." "Nothing personal?" I stared at the album, then at the wall. Emma walked into the room holding a drawing. Stick figures of our family, all smiling. She had no idea that someone had decided we didn't count. That night, I told Daniel. He frowned, flipped through the album, and stayed quiet for too long. "I'm sure it's not deliberate," he finally said. "You know how Vanessa is. Everything has to look a certain way. Maybe we just didn't fit the aesthetic?" I asked sharp. He didn't answer. And just like that, I stopped asking questions. Because asking only reopened the wound, only confirmed what I already knew. I'd been erased, not because I made a mistake, but because I didn't serve her image. And Daniel, he didn't fight for me, not then. That betrayal didn't come with yelling or slamming doors. It came dressed in silence, a page left blank, a photo cropped too tightly. And I learned something important. Some women use lace and flowers like weapons. Some smiles are just teeth. And some betrayals are so quiet, you don't even hear them shatter. By the time Daniel and I got engaged, I no longer believed in accidental exclusions. The ring came during a quiet dinner at home, Emma drawing at the table, the pasta just starting to go cold. It wasn't extravagant, but it was sincere. And for a moment, I thought maybe I could put the past behind me. But then Vanessa called. I hadn't told her, Daniel had. And less than 12 hours after he slipped the ring on my finger, she was already gushing into my voicemail. "I'm so happy for you. I can help with planning if you want. Florists, venues, photographers. I know all the best people now. Call me." I stared at the message for a long time, not angry, not confused, just fascinated. The audacity, the performance, the subtle dig. "I know what you don't. Let me show you how it's done." She wanted to be included in my day, the way I'd been erased from hers. She wanted a spotlight. She expected it. And in that moment, I decided I would give it to her, every ounce of it. I started small. The guest list. When I typed her name, I misspelled it deliberately. Vanessa, no double I-N. Just enough to signal something off, something slightly disrespectful, but easily brushed off as a typo. A crack she'd notice but couldn't call out without seeming petty. Next came the vendors. I chose people carefully, quiet professionals, people who understood discretion. My photographer was a soft-spoken woman named Lily who'd done documentary-style shoots for years. She'd photographed protests, political rallies, high-stakes legal trials. She knew how to frame a story, and more importantly, how to omit one. When I first met with her, I explained everything. Not in a dramatic rant, just the facts. What had happened, what I wanted. I want her to feel like the center of attention, I said. But I don't want her in the final cut. Lily raised an eyebrow. You want me to film her and then delete her? Exactly. I want her to feel seen, followed, adored. I want her to leave thinking she stole the show, and then gone, just like I was. There was a pause. Then Lily smiled, slow, quiet, professional. I can do that. The videographer was the same. His name was Raphael, and he'd once edited a feature for a local news station that had gone viral for what wasn't shown. When I told him the plan, he didn't flinch. This'll be clean, he said. Elegant, like she never arrived. Over the next 6 months, I planned my wedding like it was a chess match. Every detail intentional, every move layered. I wasn't out for public humiliation. I didn't want drama. I wanted silence. At my bridal shower, Vanessa gave a rambling toast about how marriage is compromise, and how Maya will finally get a taste of what real family is like. She said it with a smile, like it was a compliment. The other women clapped politely. I took a sip of wine and smiled back. 2 weeks before the wedding, I sent Lily a shot list. Vanessa's arrival, Vanessa with Emma, Vanessa clinking glasses, Vanessa laughing at the head table. Every possible moment that would feed her ego and confirm her importance. But in a separate folder, I created another list. Delete. Lily and Raphael understood. They rehearsed their coverage like it was a heist. Capture everything, then vanish it. I never once felt guilty, because what people like Vanessa don't understand is that revenge doesn't always come in raised voices or broken plates. Sometimes it comes in soft focus and clean edits. Sometimes the sharpest weapon is omission. In the days leading up to the wedding, Vanessa grew bolder. She called Daniel often, offering unsolicited advice, asking about the seating chart, reminding him to make room for her new boyfriend near the front. I told him it was fine. I encouraged it. I wanted her comfortable, unprepared. The night before the ceremony, she left me a voicemail. I hope tomorrow is everything you dreamed of, she said sweetly. You deserve it. She meant it. She really thought we'd buried the past. But I never buried it. I archived it, labeled it, studied it, and now it was time to write the final scene. The morning of my wedding was quiet, not in the peaceful, meditative way people romanticize, but in that taut, humming silence you hear before a storm breaks. The makeup artist arrived at 7. My mother poured champagne. My best friend laid out my dress. Emma sat beside me, watching every brush stroke like it was a magic spell. She looked so proud, her little hands folded neatly in her lap. I felt calm, unshakably calm. Vanessa arrived at 9:15 a.m., 15 minutes early, wearing a champagne satin dress that shimmered like intention. It was just barely off-white, with a deep plunge that didn't match the dress code. Her boyfriend, Troy, I think, trailed behind her, already on his second mimosa. She walked into the bridal suite like she owned the floor. Arms outstretched, voice high. "There's my beautiful bride." I stood and let her hug me. She smelled like expensive lotion and expensive lies. "Vanessa," I said, smiling, "I'm so glad you're here." Behind her, Lily lifted her camera slowly, as if catching a sunrise. From the outside, you would have thought we were close. There were photos, dozens of them. Vanessa helping me adjust my veil. Vanessa whispering in my ear. Vanessa laughing dramatically over a mimosa while the flash popped and the shutter clicked. She leaned into it, every pose, every fake smile tilt of her chin. The cameras adored her because I instructed them to. She wouldn't realize until much later that none of those images would survive. Not one. The ceremony was held at an old stone estate with ivy-covered walls and an arch of white roses. Guests sat in rows of antique wooden chairs while Emma scattered petals down the aisle. Daniel cried when I walked toward him. Vanessa, front row, glowing, smirking like she'd been vindicated. Like her presence alone was an apology I had accepted. During the vows, I caught her looking at Raphael's camera. She adjusted her posture, smiled, nudged Troy, and laughed softly, as if she were in on a joke no one else could hear. We took group photos on the lawn. Vanessa slid beside me before I even called her name. "We need one together," she said, pulling me in. Lily lifted her lens, but I watched her hands. She didn't press the shutter. Instead, she moved slightly, just enough for Vanessa's face to be obstructed by a beam of light bouncing from a car mirror, subtle, surgical. At the reception, Vanessa gave a toast. "I've watched Maya grow from someone who didn't know what fork to use at dinner," she said, smiling toward me, to someone who's now planning full events with elegance and poise. "You've really evolved." Some people laughed politely. Others glanced around, unsure. I raised my glass and nodded. She was performing, I was directing. After cake, dancing, and the bouquet toss, Lily pulled me aside. "We've got it," she said quietly. "Every frame you asked for, and not a single one you didn't." I nodded once. Good. As the night wore on, Vanessa drank more, posed more, looped herself into every group photo. At one point, she even asked Raphael, "Can you send me the footage early? I want to make a little edit for social." Raphael smiled. "We'll send the final cut to the bride. She'll take care of it." That seemed to satisfy her, but I saw it in her eyes. She thought this was her stage. She thought this wedding was her chance to show that we were past it, that whatever had happened before, if it had happened at all, was forgotten. She believed it, and that was the most elegant part. By midnight, the venue lights dimmed and guests began to leave. Vanessa found me on the dance floor one last time, arms wide, glowing under the chandelier. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered in my ear. "It was perfect." I smiled. "I know." The video arrived 10 days later. Lily sent it with a short note. "Final cut? You'll know where to look." I waited until Emma was asleep and Daniel was out running errands. I needed to be alone for this part. Not because I feared what I might feel, but because I didn't want anyone else to witness the moment I reclaimed the version of myself they tried to erase. I made tea, set the laptop on the dining table, closed the curtains. Then I pressed play. It opened on soft piano notes. Golden morning light filtered through gauzy curtains. Emma twirled in her little robe, laughing, my mother pinning in my hair. Slow motion, elegant cuts, no filter needed, just warmth, love. The ceremony unfolded like a memory sharpened in hindsight. My walk down the aisle, Daniel's hands trembling slightly as he held mine. A cut to Emma's proud little face in the front row. But something was missing. Someone was missing. Vanessa. Not even in the background, not once, not at the head table, not during the cake, not a single frame from her dramatic toast, which I knew had been filmed in full. It was as if she had never attended. Gone. Cleanly, effortlessly. The camera had danced around her presence like she was an air bubble to be avoided. In the group shots, the composition shifted just enough that she was either cut off, obscured, or simply not included. During the speeches, the angle focused only on me and Daniel, framed in warm spotlight. All other sounds softened beneath the music. Even the wide crowd shots had somehow avoided her completely. I didn't smile, I didn't laugh, I just watched. My own face on screen didn't beam or gloat. It looked peaceful, steady, like a woman who had finally stopped waiting for validation from people who'd never intended to give it. When the final note played and the video faded to black, I sat for a long time without moving. Not triumphant, just whole. Later that week, I sent a copy to Vanessa. Of course I did. She texted back a few hours later. Hey, do you have the raw footage? I wanted to grab a few shots of me and Troy. I stared at the message. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I typed, "That's the final version. I guess the editor kept it tight. Nothing personal." I added a smiley face. Then I hit send. She didn't reply. But a few days later, I noticed something odd. Her Instagram post about my wedding disappeared. The one with the caption, "Always the life of the party." Gone, like she hadn't been there at all. I'd expected rage or confrontation. But Vanessa wasn't the type to explode. She was the type to retreat. She couldn't accuse me without admitting how much it mattered. She couldn't say, "You erased me," without revealing just how badly she needed the spotlight to prove she belonged in it. So she went quiet, and that silence was louder than any scream. 2 weeks after the video went out, I got a call from my mother. "I just watched it again," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Maya, it's beautiful and dignified." I knew what she meant. She had seen what wasn't there and understood it perfectly. Emma loved it too. She kept replaying her little moment with the flower petals, grinning every time she saw herself spin. She didn't ask why her aunt wasn't in it. Children don't notice what's missing when they feel full. Daniel said nothing at first. He'd never liked conflict, never wanted to be between the two women in his life. But one evening, as we sat outside, watching Emma ride her bike, he finally said, "You know she noticed, Vanessa. She hasn't said a word about the video." "I know," I said. He glanced at me, then away. "I think you scared her." I smiled faintly. "Good." He didn't press further, and maybe that was his quiet way of apologizing. For not standing up back then, for not seeing it sooner. I didn't need a scene or an apology. I didn't want Vanessa to cry or beg. I didn't even want her to feel what I had felt. Not fully. I just wanted her to understand, to know what it's like to give your time, your trust, your presence, and have someone decide it doesn't count. I wanted her to feel what it's like to be cropped out of your own generosity. And now she did. A month after the wedding, I ordered our photo album. Lily's images were warm and graceful, the compositions intimate, artful. Everyone who mattered was captured, honestly, lovingly, and the pages turned smoothly. No interruptions, no reminders, just the life I'd built, page by page, without her in it. One evening, I sat with Emma on the living room floor, flipping through the printed album. "Was that your favorite day?" she asked. I looked at her, this small, wide-eyed person who had seen everything without understanding all of it. "It was," I said, "but not because of the dress, or the cake, or the party." "Then why?" "Because I finally decided what kind of story I wanted to be in, and who I wanted in it." She nodded like she understood, though I knew she didn't yet. One day she would. And when she did, she'd know how to protect herself, how to set boundaries without screaming, how to draw a line so sharp it leaves no mark, but everything past it disappears. I didn't just cut Vanessa from a video. I rewrote the narrative she tried to control, quietly, elegantly, and now I live in peace. If you've ever been quietly erased by someone who smiled to your face, don't just survive it, outwrite them, outframe them. And when you're ready, tell your story. Start by subscribing. I have more.